Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. We are finally back here in Chicago. It has been a minute. I want to get it started with a Raptors proposed trade. Now, I can't remember which site I was on, but it's regarding Caris LeVert, and I don't know if it was fan-sided or whatever article it was, but they had a really enticing package, and I'm thinking to myself, first off, I highly doubt that Indiana would accept this lowball of a trade, but hey, you never know. The trade deadline is like, over 20 days, 24 days, something like that. And they could get desperate, but we'll explain that here in just a couple of minutes. If you guys enjoy it, you like Raptors content, I pretty much post Raptors daily content. I also post daily NBA content, so be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button. Raptors Nation, we are 7 subscribers away from 9,900 subs. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, trying to get this video to 100 likes, that would be absolutely awesome and helping me reach my goal. Here's the trade, man. I think this would be a no-brainer for Toronto, but I understand first-round picks. There's something you want to have. There's something you want to have, especially when you're, I don't want to say the Raptors are rebuilding, but they're definitely like kind of retweaking, and you could use these first-round picks to make a big-time package for a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, or you never know. But here's what I saw. Caris LeVert for, get ready, Goran Dragic, Malachi Flynn, Yuta Watanabe, and a first-round pick. I think if you're the Raptors and you get this trade offer, honestly, I think you need to accept it. Like, I honestly think you need to accept it. Getting a first-round, or giving up Goran Dragic, only giving up a first-round draft pick to get a star-caliber player in Caris LeVert, I think it could really put them over the edge. And here's my big thing. Indiana, a couple of days ago, apparently their asking price for Caris LeVert is 2 first-round draft picks. 2 first-round draft picks. In my opinion, there's no way, shape, or form that they end up getting that. What I think is going to happen to Indiana at the deadline is I think they're just going to jump ship. I think they're going to trade Miles. I think they're going to trade Brogdon. I think they're going to trade LeVert. I think they're going to trade Sabonis, or at least majority of those players. So maybe like 3 out of those 4 guys. I think for a player like Sabonis, player like Miles Turner, you're going to get a combination of young talent, and you're also going to get a combination of valuable draft assets. So I think if they were to trade away Miles, or if they were to trade Sabonis, or even, can they even trade Warren right now? But if you trade away Brogdon and you get some value back, I could see Indiana hopping on a trade like this just because they're just trying to stack it all up. They're just trying to stack it all up, get ready for a rebuild, kind of build around, you build around your young pieces. They had a really underrated draft that started with Chris Duarte, and his future is very, very bright. Caris LeVert, though, let's talk about him fitting on the Raptors. I think he might honestly be perfect. The only downside, and this might be honestly, as crazy as it may seem to a non-Raptors fan, this might be enough to have me decline this trade, is his defense. I know Caris LeVert can play defense, but you combine kind of his 2 faults, defense and injuries, and you add those together, and I'm not all that enticed, because what this trade would mean is, first off, I think Caris LeVert averaging 18 points per game, I think he is too good to, at 27 years old, I just think he's too good to throw him on the bench. So what that would mean is Gary Trent Jr. most likely would be on the bench. Well, if you didn't know this already, Gary Trent Jr. actually leads the NBA in steals. This man leads the NBA in steals. He averages over 2 steals per game. And while Gary Trent Jr. might not be like the most lockdown guard defender, I love his ability to jump into passing lanes, just kind of read players, read offenses, knowing when to make the right move, knowing when to switch. Like Gary Trent Jr., I think the chemistry that he's acquired through Toronto in the last, ever since he got acquired last year, I think it's honestly a little too much. So from a Raptors, I think if the Raptors bench had a little bit more oomph to it, like Kem Birch maybe was 2 more years developed, Precious Achiuwa maybe 2 more years developed, Svi maybe a year more into, Delano Banton maybe if he was like in his 3rd season, or maybe even his 2nd season. Those are guys that I think really need to develop if this Raptors team wants to make a run at the postseason, or a deep run at the postseason, I should say. They should be able to make the playoffs this year as well. Basically, when their bench comes in, there isn't much there. Like, you're kind of, the Raptors are heavily relying right now on guys like Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa to come in and step up when their name gets called. Yuta Watanabe got the start against Milwaukee, played 5 minutes. They looked horrible with him out there. Offensively, he hasn't been able to do anything in, honestly, like the entire season. Defensively, there just wasn't enough there. You got to worry about like chemistry problems, though. Keep in mind, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, and Khem Birch all missed that game against Milwaukee. But I'm thinking, when I really think about it, now that I'm saying it out loud, the Raptors are building a plan here. They're building a straight up plan. They're trying to just get as long, they're trying to get as big as they humanly can. Mainly as long and as versatile as they humanly can. Like, literally, like, they have a plethora of guys who have over 6'11" wingspans. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. But I think Caris LeVert comes in here with the health issues. I just don't think it honestly makes enough sense to kind of give up a first round draft pick just for like that short term, oh, maybe we could make a run at the playoffs this year or at the finals this year. I think they're better off just kind of developing this younger talent that they have, going from there. Whether that's just developing their draft picks, making some tweaks in this upcoming offseason, whether that's, in free agency or in the trade market. But to play devil's advocate at the same time, Gary Trent Jr., although I haven't been thrilled with him when he's come off of the bench, granted that was in the first like month or so of this season when the Raptors, they weren't really clicking. It took the Raptors a while to kind of get clicking once they got fully healthy, and they're finding their way. They're finding their footing right now that they're just about fully healthy. The thing is, Gary Trent Jr., maybe you just didn't give him enough time down there at the bench. The thing is, I think of Gary Trent Jr. and I'm like, I think he's just too good to have coming off of the bench. But I don't know, man. If the Pacers were to actually accept like a Goran Dragic, Malachi Flynn, maybe Yuta Watanabe thrown in there as well, and a future first round draft pick, maybe even a first round draft pick that the Toronto Raptors don't even have, you could be talking here. So I'm really excited, Raptor Nation, to hear what you guys have to say down below in the comment section, because this is a tough one. I think just like honestly trading for Caris LeVert is kind of a risk on its own. But if you were to get this guy, maybe even Caris LeVert comes off of the bench, man. You never know. I don't think you'd be all that thrilled about that at all. But Caris LeVert off of the bench, his playmaking, his shot creation, that sounds kind of cool. I just think Caris LeVert, given his injury history, as good of a playmaker as he is, I think he would be really valuable on the offensive side for the Raptors, just because, like I said, he can create on his own. He can play make the hell. Like, this guy offensively is very gifted. He's one hell of a scorer, and I feel like last year, before he got injured, that's when he was kind of really coming to his own. Now, I think he just needs to stay healthy, and he'll be, honestly, maybe even a 20-plus point per game scorer in the right system, maybe even in Indiana if they don't get rid of him. But a little too risky for me. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's honestly like one of those like 55% of me saying decline this trade, but that other 45, it's creeping in there. So Raptors Nation, let me know if you guys would accept this trade. Hit the like button, hit that sub button. I'll see you guys later.